Good afternoon, everyone. So, as we've named the CME as revision of anemia, so whatever Vandana has said, almost whole of it I am going to repeat. So, what is anemia? As we all know, anemia is defined as hemoglobin less than normal range specified for age and sex. In children age of 6 to 59 months, if the hemoglobin is more than equal to 11 grams, it is no anemia. Whereas we call it severe if it is less than 7 grams. In children of 5 to 11 years of age, hemoglobin of more than 11.5 grams is no anemia, whereas less than 8 grams is considered as severe anemia. In children of 12 to 14 years, more than 12 is normal, less than 8 is severe anemia. In non-pregnant women, 15 years onwards, more than 12 is normal and less than 8 is severe anemia. In pregnant women, we take it little less, that is more than equal to 11 because of the hemodilution, but less than 7 is considered severe anemia. In men, whatever age, more than 15 years, more than 13 grams is considered normal, whereas less than 8 is considered as severe anemia. Methods of hemoglobin estimation. Hemoglobin levels, whether we assess them by direct venous blood or by indirect method from capillary blood or complete blood count including PCV and red cell indices, peripheral blood smear and bone marrow examination, all these things they add to the correct diagnosis of type of anemia. POCT for hemoglobin estimation. Invasive methods can be used like indirect sun hemoglobin method, Saheli's method, HB color scale method, copper sulfate method, Vengete's method and modifications. Invasive methods with reagent free cavities like HemoQ 301. This is so fast that in 10 seconds we come to know about the hemoglobin, but this method is not available all over. If it is available, it is mostly used for whenever large groups are to be screened, like in camps and all. So this is very useful if it is available. Non-invasive methods including occlusion spectroscopy, pulse oximetry, co-oximetry, transcutaneous reflection spectroscopy. Interpretations of results. Whatever methods we use for estimation of hemoglobin, PCV, MCV or all the parameters whatever we have found out, interpretation of results is very, very important, but if it is done by an easier method, it is much more useful. Interpretation of results is easier if simple rules are followed, like according to the rule of 3, for example, the hemoglobin value is equal to 3 times the RBC. I again repeat, the hemoglobin value is equal to 3 times the RBC count and hematocrit is 3 times the hemoglobin value. So for example, if hematocrit is 34% and hemoglobin is 9 gram percent, that means 34 is more than 3 into 9, that is 27. Means plasma volume is decreased, which means hemoconcentration is there. So we have to find out why the plasma volume is less. What is the reason? Whether it is because of dehydration or any other etiology is there. Similarly, if RBC count is 5.5 millions and hemoglobin is 9 gram per deciliter, it shows insufficiency of hemoglobin as is seen in thalassemias. Complete blood count, as we know, that is the commonest investigation we all order for. So this gives us the information regarding hemoglobin, hematocrit, total WBC count, differential WBC count, total RBC count, mean cell volume, mean cell hemoglobin, mean cell hemoglobin concentration, red cell distribution width, RDW coefficient of variation, platelets, platelet distribution width and mean platelet volume. Diagnostic tests for anemia. Once we have diagnosed by the complete blood count that hemoglobin is low and anemia, we are suspecting that anemia is there. So the further investigations are to be done. We have to see whether there are associated abnormalities of white blood cells or platelets, whether they are present or not. If associated abnormalities are present, then bone marrow examination is to be done. Bone marrow examination, if we do, we will come to know whether it is a megaloblastic anemia, aplastic anemia, myelodysplasia or hematological malignancies. And if abnormalities are restricted only to the red cell series, then reticulocyte count is to be done, and with reticulocyte count, if it is raised, then we need to investigate for blood loss. Especially acute blood loss leads to raised reticulocyte count, and hemolytic anemias are to be ruled out. If the reticulocyte count is not raised to the degree of anemia, then red cell indices are important, and we should rule out microcytic anemia, normocytic or macrocytic. Cavities of our normal ranges, as we know that all these values, whichever we see from all the labs, there can be variations in the normal ranges. Like sometimes there are lower values are reported for some categories which may be normal for them. Like causes of lower values in intense physical activity. If somebody is an athlete, so he may be having little lower hemoglobin, but that may be normal for his activity. In pregnancies, like we see hemodilution is there, which also leads to a lesser hemoglobin, like 11 grams is considered normal, whereas otherwise we take 12 as normal. In older age also we see lesser of hemoglobin, and causes for higher values are smoking, medication and hemoconcentration and high altitude. Older adults, the prevalence of this category needs special mention because the prevalence of anemia increases substantially in patients over the age of 60 years. Evaluation of the underlying cause is essential before attributing anemia to aging. Major causes of anemia in older adults include nutritional deficiencies in approximately 1/3, like iron, vitamin B12 or folate deficiency, kidney disease or anemia of chronic disease, unexplained in remaining 1/3. Testing with serum testosterone is indicated in older males with isolated normocytic anemia. Adjustment of hemoglobin. WHO hemoglobin cutoffs for anemia refer to sea level values. Add the correction value to the hemoglobin cutoff values or subtract the adjustment from the measured hemoglobin concentration at the relevant altitude. As for example, a woman living at 4,200 meters and smoking half a pack of cigarettes, which includes almost 20 to 22 cigarettes per day, would be like we take 12 as the ideal hemoglobin. So we add 3.4 for altitude and plus we add 0.3 for smoking. So that makes it 15.7 grams of hemoglobin. Diagnosis of anemia by morphology of RBCs. As I have already mentioned, it could be microcytic, normocytic or macrocytic. Evaluation of microcytic anemia. Microcytic anemia is diagnosed when the MCV is less than 80 femtoliters. See, if we find that MCV is less than, welcome Dr. Meenakshi, please come. So if the MCV is less than 80, then we should order for serum ferritin. Serum ferritin, if it could be either low or it could be normal. With a low serum ferritin, we detect iron deficiency anemia. If the levels of ferritin are normal, then hemoglobin electrophoresis is to be done to rule out thalassemia, or if it is normal, then anemia of chronic disease or sideroblastic anemia is to be ruled out. Evaluation of macrocytic anemia. If the MCV is more than 100 femtoliters, then reticulocyte count is to be done. If it is increased, then hemolytic anemia is to be ruled out or acute blood loss is to be ruled out. And if the reticulocyte count is normal or low, then and we have to take exhaustive history to rule out chronic liver disease, drug intake and hypothyroidism. If no such history is there, then bone marrow examination is ordered, which may tell us further about whether bone marrow is normoblastic, which will tell us about the liver disease and hypothyroidism. If it is megaloblastic, then folate or vitamin B12 deficiency is suspected. Myelodysplastic bone marrow will show us myelodysplastic syndrome, and hypocellular bone marrow will tell us about the aplastic anemia. Evaluation of normocytic anemia. Normocytic anemia, if we see on the peripheral smear, then reticulocyte count will help us in finding out whether it is increased or normal or low. If the reticulocyte count is increased, then hemolytic anemia is to be ruled out. If the reticulocyte count is normal, then history of underlying chronic disease like renal failure is to be diagnosed. So once normal or low reticulocyte count is there, then evaluate for anemia or chronic disease like chronic renal failure is to be ruled out. If the reticulocyte count is normal, then bone marrow examination is to be done. If it is normal, then anemia of chronic renal failure is there, and if it is abnormal, then aplastic anemia or showing ineffective erythropoiesis is the diagnosis. Biomarkers of anemia, it depends on the cause. If it is iron deficiency, then the biomarkers used are serum ferritin, soluble transferrin receptors, serum iron, bone marrow examination, and red cell morphology. If other nutritional deficiencies are suspected, such as folate and vitamin B12, then red cell morphology, dietary intake helps us in diagnosing that kind of anemia. If the patient belongs to an area which is endemic for malaria, then parasite antigen, thick and thin blood smears should be done to diagnose whether chronic malaria is there or not. Helminthic infections we can diagnose by stool examination. Chronic infections, depending on the history, we should order specific clinical tests for the pathogens. Inflammation, like acute phase proteins will be raised if acute inflammation is there. Hemoglobinopathies need to be diagnosed by electrophoresis or by genetic screening. Gastric and intestinal diseases we can rule out by knowing the presence of blood in the feces. Anemia status indicators, if iron deficiency anemia is there, it will be diagnosed with less of hemoglobin, we will see that it will be decreased. Serum ferritin, serum iron, transferrin saturation, they are all decreased, but total iron binding capacity is increased, soluble transferrin receptors are increased, but hepcidin is decreased. So from here we can see that if the storage iron is depleted, then the manifestations are much earlier. So hepcidin is a small peptide hormone which is a regulator of entry of iron into the circulation. The following pathways control hepcidin production, like iron store related regulation, erythropoietic activity driven regulation, inflammation related regulation. Hepcidin and iron metabolism. More hepcidin is produced by hepatocytes when iron is abundant, limiting further iron absorption and release from stores. When iron is deficient, hepatocytes produce less or no hepcidin, allowing more iron to enter plasma. Therefore, hepcidin is the master regulator of iron utilization. It decreases the movement of iron into plasma. Hepcidin regulation stimuli for release of hepcidin are circulating transparent iron levels, inflammation or infection, presence of inflammation or infection, presence of hypoxia which may be due to hemorrhage or otherwise, and hormones like growth hormone, estrogen and testosterone, they all act as stimulators of hepcidin. Guidelines for prophylaxis of anemia. There are 6 beneficiaries according to Anemia Mukt Bharat approaches to address anemia. We can have approaches like food, which could be food based, or supplementation, or public health measures. So when we consider food based approaches, in this we have dietary diversification, like adding foods with high micronutrient density to staple diets. So whatever anybody has a staple diet, we should guide them to change their diet so that they can get more iron from the same diets which they are using. Promotion of iron rich foods, methods for like germination and fermentation, which will also enhance presence of proteins as well as iron. Food fortifications, the potential vehicles which are used for food fortification are flour, milk, salt, sugar, condiments, bread and biscuits. Supplementation, we all know, can be given in the form of tablets, capsules, syrup or parenteral iron can be given. Public health measures such as improving sanitation and hygiene, health education, communication for behavioral changes, and prevention and prompt treatment of hookworm and malaria. So approaches to address anemia, as we've all seen that children are also not spared from anemia. So in the age group of 6 to 59 months, bi-weekly 1 ml of iron and folic acid syrup, which contains, each ml contains 20 milligrams of elemental iron and 100 micrograms of folic acid. The recommendation is to give it bi-weekly to this age group children. And it is available in the form of 50 ml bottle with an auto dispenser. When the children are in the age group of 5 to 9 years, then weekly 1 iron and folic acid tablet, each tablet containing 45 milligrams of elemental iron plus 400 micrograms of folic acid. These are sugar coated tablets and they are pink in color. Then school going and out of school adolescent girls and boys 10 to 19 years of age, they are recommended to take weekly 1 iron and folic acid tablet, each tablet containing 60 milligrams of elemental iron plus 500 micrograms of folic acid, preferably sugar coated tablet, and which is blue in color. So guidelines for prophylaxis of anemia, I continue, and here we have women in the age group of 20 to 49 years. For them, the recommendation is again for a weekly 1 tablet of iron and folic acid, each tablet containing 60 milligrams of elemental iron and 500 micrograms of folic acid. And these tablets are also sugar coated and they are red in color. For pregnant women, the recommendation is for daily dosing, not weekly dosing. Daily 1 iron and folic acid tablet starting from the 4th month of pregnancy, that is from the 2nd trimester, and continued throughout pregnancy, and a minimum of 180 days. So lactating mothers who have a small child of 0 to 6 months, these women are recommended to take 1 iron and folic acid tablet, and which is to be continued for minimum of 180 days postpartum. Anemia treatment for pregnant women. So suppose a woman comes to a primary health for pregnancy care. The first level of treatment, if she is mild to moderately anemic, the recommendation is to give 2 tablets of iron and folic acid daily orally for a minimum of 2 months. And if parenteral iron is indicated in the form of iron sucrose or ferric carboxymaltose, if the pregnant woman who has been detected to be anemic comes late in pregnancy or in whom compliance is likely to be low. So, and if she has severe anemia when she visits for the first time, then the treatment will be done using IV iron sucrose or ferric carboxymaltose. Immediate hospitalization is recommended in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy, or if hemoglobin is less than 5 grams per deciliter, irrespective of the period of gestation. This is to be done till normal level of hemoglobin is achieved. Follow-up is done every 2 months for women who are mild to moderately anemic for compliance of treatment by health provider during this contact. If hemoglobin levels have come up to the normal, then the weekly prophylactic dose is to be shifted to, and those who are severely anemic, they should be followed up every month. Preventive measures, I've already talked about these measures. So iron deficiency anemia prevention, dietary recommendations include regular consumption of iron rich foods such as green leafy vegetables, sprouted pulses, wheat, jawar, bajra, apple, guava and banana. Wherever culturally and socially feasible, consumption of meat liver should be encouraged. Tea drinking should be separated from mealtime. Milk, cheese and dairy products should be consumed as a bin between meal snacks. Iron deficiency anemia prevention, food fortification has come in a big way and it has been successfully used worldwide. Rice in Philippines is fortified with iron sulfate mix. Ferrous sulfate has been used in chill. Metallic iron has been used in UK, USA and Sweden as ferrous sulfate in Venezuela. Iron EDTA in condiments such as curry powder in South Africa and sugar in Guatemala. Oral iron preparations, over the years we have seen there are numerous oral iron preparations, but the most commonly used are the ferrous sulfate which may be used in hydrous or anhydrous form, and ferrous fumarate is also another popular preparation which is used, and these two preparations they have high tolerability and bioavailability is also good. Carbonyl iron and sodium ferritinate, they are not used because the bioavailability of iron is not good in these preparations. Response to oral iron therapy, clinical improvement is seen in 5 to 7 days in the form of rise in the reticulocyte count, which rises by 0.2% per day. In 2 to 3 weeks time, hemoglobin increases by 0.8 to 1 gram per deciliter per week. All parameters MCV, MCH, MCHC, they improve. In 6 to 8 weeks time, hemoglobin comes to the normal range, serum ferritin increases and peripheral blood film shows normocytic, normochromic. change. Understanding oral therapy. The advantages of oral therapy are it is effective for most patients. It is extremely low risk for serious side effects and initial costs are also low. The disadvantages are that the gastrointestinal side effects are common. Compliance may be low. It may be inadequate for severe or ongoing blood loss, may require administration for several months, and the total cost, because it is to be given for several months, may become higher in the end. Tips for on taking iron tablets. These tips are for the patients. It works best when taken on an empty stomach. However, if it causes stomach upset, take it with or after food. Preferable to take it with orange juice or a vitamin C supplement. Vitamin C is believed to increase the amount of iron absorbed by the body. Swallow the tablet or capsule whole with a glass of water. Do not suck, chew or keep the tablet in the mouth, as this can cause mouth ulcers or stain your teeth. Do not take it with tea, coffee, eggs, dairy products and soya bean products, as they can reduce the amount of iron absorbed. After iron tablet, leave a 2-hour gap before having the other foods. Coping with side effects. The side effects such as stomach pain or heartburn. So the patient is advised to take it with or just after a meal or snack, and they are advised to stick to simple meals and do not eat rich or spicy food. If they experience constipation or a diarrhea, then they are advised to eat more high fiber foods such as fresh fruit, vegetables and cereals, and drink plenty of water. Try to exercise more regularly, for example by going for a daily walk or run. Dark or black stools. Some patients are scared when they have dark or black stools, but they should be counseled that this is normal when they are taking iron supplements. Loss of appetite is experienced by some patients, and they should be counseled to take smaller meals more often than usual, and the snack should be taken when they are hungry. What are the indications for parenteral iron therapy? If there is GI intolerance to iron, severe malabsorption conditions are there, if compliance is poor and with chronic renal disease, and if the patient is near term or the patient is having hemodialysis. Parenteral iron transfusion, Vandana has already talked in detail. So oral versus parenteral iron. Oral iron, the pros are available over counter and it is convenient and inexpensive. The cons are limited daily absorption, dose depends on GI side effects, uptake impaired in setting of GI disease, alteration of microbial flora has been observed, mucosal injury and potential exacerbation of IBD has been seen. Intravenous iron, pros are faster repletion of iron stores, effective when intestinal absorption is impaired. Cons are it requires administration by health professionals, potential for iron overload is there, and potential for anaphylactic reaction in some cases. Indications for blood transfusion are whenever there is active bleeding and the patient is hemodynamically unstable and there is critical anemia, that hemoglobin is less than 7 grams per deciliter, then any period of gestation one should give blood transfusion to the patient. Acute MI or failure to respond to other treatments. Deworming is must whenever we talk about anemia, because unless and until we do deworming, the hemoglobin is not going to rise, and the recommendation is for children of the age group 12 to 59 months, biannual dose of 400 milligram albendazole. Half a tablet is given to children of the age group 12 to 24 months and one tablet from 24 to 24 months onwards. For children 5 to 9 years of age, the same recommendation, biannual dose of 400 milligram tablet, that is one tablet twice a year is to be given. School going and out of school adolescent girls and boys 10 to 19 years of age, biannual dose of 400 milligram albendazole. Then women of reproductive age, non-pregnant, non-lactating 20 to 49 years of age, the recommendation is again biannual dose of 400 milligrams of albendazole. For pregnant women, one dose of 400 milligram albendazole after the first trimester, preferably during the second trimester, is to be given. So iron rich foods, as we all know, kya khaएं kya na khaएं. So with this chart we can easily guide the patient that she needs to take iron folic acid tablets regularly, preferably with lemon water. She should use green leafy vegetables in plenty. If she is a non-vegetarian, she can make use of non-vegetarian food. Vitamin C rich fruits, she should eat in plenty, plus sprouted pulses. If she includes in her diet, she'll be less anemic. And what she should not take is the excessive tea and coffee, plus iron and calcium tablets should not be taken together. And regular hemoglobin levels should be done so as to know whether whatever therapy she is taking, whether it is effective or not. In India, we have plenty of green leafy vegetables as shown in this picture. Sources of iron: green leafy vegetables, legumes, nuts, jaggery, dried fruits, meat, liver, poultry and fish. Sources of folic acid are green leafy vegetables, legumes, nuts, milk, fruits, meat, liver and eggs. So these are the vegan sources of protein. As we can see from here, the various seeds which are available like pumpkin seeds, peanut, almonds, cashew, poppy seeds, soya beans, chia seeds, tofu, lentil, kidney beans, mung beans, green peas, spirulina powder, all these are very rich sources of proteins as well as they help in increasing the hemoglobin. Forms of dietary iron. Dietary iron can be heme iron or non-heme iron. Heme iron is derived from hemoglobin found in animal food. The sources are meat and poultry and fish. Absorption of iron is higher when the iron is taken in heme form. Non-heme iron is found in plant sources and in fortified foods. Absorption of iron is lower with the plant origin of iron. Iron absorption enhancers. The absorption of iron from mixed cereal pulse diet is poor, 5% in men and children and 8% in all women. Food enhancing iron absorption are foods containing vitamin C, citrus fruits like lemon, orange, amla, tomatoes, sprouted pulses like germinated pulses. Ascorbic acid to iron ratio, if it is 4:1, it increases the iron absorption by 300 to 350%. Iron absorption inhibitors, calcium containing foods like milk and milk products, foods containing high fiber foods rich in phytates, cereals and pulses, foods rich in polyphenols, oxalates, green leafy vegetables, tea and coffee containing tannins. Iron rich food cereals, we can see from here that the bajra is richest in iron content. Puffed rice also has significant amount. So these foods can be consumed by even poor people, so that if they are guided properly, they will not become anemic if they have consumption of these foods in plenty. Thank you.